Hey, y'all, it's me, your host, Coach Pilar Arthur Sneed. Thanks so much for joining me here for another episode of The Last 10th. So, I know, I'm going to say it, but literally, I am so excited to be here today. I have Coach Justice Williams with me on the show today, founder of Fitness4AllBodies. You can find that on Instagram, and also founder of the Queer Pop-Up Gym. I've been following both of these accounts for a hot minute. And so when I reached out to Coach Justice to join me on the show, I just was, and when he wrote back and said he would join me, I was like, yeah. So, Coach, welcome to the show. I'm so glad that you are here.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
It's a
I'm
pleasure.
I'm humbled to be here.
Excellent. So, I usually like to start in a place where I really love it when, in your own words, instead of me, saying all the things in sort of a, you know, scientific kind of a way. I really love it if you would tell myself and the audience a little bit more about you. Anything at all that you would like to share.
Sure. My name is Coach Justice, and my pronouns are he, him, his. Um, I guess a little bit about me is that I have always been an activist, trying to find my own body and
Mm,
trying to speak out loud
mm,
so that people would hear me.
mm,
And I found that in those ways that I had to learn how to love myself differently,
mm,
build my armor because the world around me won't always accept all of who I am,
mm.
even if I celebrate myself, and to actively find spaces or create spaces
Yes.
where I feel like I can be all of who I am and
Mm,
celebrate that
mm,
in my activism, in my recovery, in my healing,
mm.
in the ways that I love, in the ways that I exist in the world. And in that, I've been able to polish my own armor
Mm,
and create space for those who have the same feeling of discomfort
mm,
when they go and when they walk in a world that don't quite understand their bodies,
mhm,
because we've all been lied to.
mhm,
And so creating spaces for us,
mhm.
all bodies,
Yes.
people that have been marginalized in the
Mm,
world, unseen.
mm,
I think of Mumia Abu Jamal in my activism because I want to be
mm.
the voice of those who have been voiceless, who have been
Yes.
silenced in this world. And so I use all of my energy as an activist, as an artist, as a body coach to embody the things that I hope to see in the world, within the industry that I work in,
Mm.
and just within wellness places in all institutions within the United States or the United Snakes. So,
Indeed.
so that's who I am basically, amongst being the founder of the Queer Gym pop up and Fitness for All Bodies. I've
Mm,
found there's so many things that have been based off of love, like
mm,
freeing ourselves when I was doing activism in New Bedford,
mm.
or I've started Body Image for Justice, which is the root
Wow.
and the initiative that created my ability to voice my queerness in ways
Mm,
across the divide and pull it together. And
mhm.
so, in all of these ways and in all of this, I found the root of connectivity being body image. I feel
Yes.
like we've all been lied to about how we should be in our bodies.
Tell me more about
And
that.
so I guess in my work around body image for justice, Um, I've been working within gyms and gym spaces, and just, you know, I have a weird brain, and my brain likes to, I guess, deconstruct
Mm.
the toxicity that's around me. And but
Yes.
it can happen, like if I'm looking at a situation, a
Yes.
person, or it just happens
Yes.
randomly. And I'll
Okay.
think in ways that other people won't even initiate discussion.
Mm.
And so that's when I began really rooting my activism in all of the ways that I felt that I have been silenced,
Mm.
and finding that in significant ways there is no ideal body, there is no perfection, and nobody is meeting those ideas. No one. White
Mhm.
people aren't meeting those ideas.
Mhm.
And there's reasons why white people don't understand the diversity within their own community, is
Mhm.
because it's originally and initially been erased. And so
Absolutely.
helping us all to see in the ways that our own bodies have been erased, in
Mhm.
this mythological idea of body image and perfection, which
Mhm.
leads to these ideas to be godlike,
Mhm.
which also embodies like the way we seek out wellness, like
Mhm.
the way we identify wellness and fitness and movement, the way it's become more of an aesthetic, the way that we try to keep moving to stay alive. All of these ideas are centered around white supremacist culture. They're white
Mhm.
ideas, they're
Mm.
white ways to keep us
Mm.
connected to myths and fighting and paying money in
Mhm.
this elusive matrix. And the reality is that they are constructs,
Mhm.
so they can be deconstructed. And so that is where I choose to spend most of my time.
So there's so there you said so many things and I'm like, okay, I could go here. I could go here. So I want to something that you said that really struck me is it's the myth of perfection, um, and the myth that there's some great ideal body that we're all suddenly going to we're all suddenly going to find this in your work in Fitness for All Bodies. What are some of the ways in which you are challenging that? And then the other thing is that something that constantly, I don't want to say that it bugs me. I don't really have the right language for it, but it's this staunch, um it's this entrenchment in binaries. You're either fat or you're skinny. You're either male or you're female. You're either white or you're black, right? So it's like it's all of these things, and that if you are exceptionally this, then you're perfect. So talk to me about that. All of it.
Well, I remember, um, that's funny because that generally brings up a conversation that people will always say to me.
Mm,
You know, they will always say to me, back in the day,
mm,
just as you're always like either black or white,
mm,
it's
mm,
either gotta be one way or the other,
mm,
right? And
mm.
I'd be like, you know, yeah, it's either this or that. And and when I think back, right, because
Mm,
we've all internalized this way of thinking,
mm,
right? We've all
mm, mm,
internalized it
mm,
in these ways that I'm trying to unlock the trap of this binary ideology, right?
mm,
I
mm,
am still holding myself within these binaries,
mm,
right?
mm, mm,
And so I let it go when I realized that my body is an amazing thing. It's
Mm,
an amazing gift that no one has the rights on but myself,
mm,
right? And in this, I can journey with it and
mm,
I can be in it and I can celebrate each moment,
mm.
right? I can even celebrate the ways that I feel separated from it.
Yes.
I can celebrate the ways that it doesn't fit this puzzle that I feel like in certain days, in certain ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I celebrate it all because we are not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And that is part of my celebration. And
Mm,
in that, I acknowledge and I take responsibility, more responsibility for the ways I'm going to own how I internalize self hate, how I internalize what that looks like inside my body, how I hold that, and how on a daily basis, much like I am bombarded with these messages, I
mm,
have to daily create rituals around eradicating those ideas and
mm,
zapping those ideas and getting rid of those ideas from my own personal framework. So,
mm-hmm.
what that looks like for Fitness for All Bodies is how do I do that generally with myself is continually conversation with
Mm,
my own self internally
mm,
about the ideas that I feel inside and really talk it out because I feel like those are like internal demons, right?
mm-hmm.
And so I
Absolutely.
talk it out and I understand in those ways that that is not a piece of me and it's okay to let it go. And so through that connectivity or reconnection, I believe that is an intimacy. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to create that space where we can all have those conversations both together but inside ourselves. So, meaning we have to be in our silos
Mm-hmm.
to have conversations with our communities. Like, as Black people, we should be talking about the L's of like how we've internalized gender and
Mm-hmm.
how we've internalized sexuality and
Mm-hmm.
how we've internalized race
Mm-hmm.
within skin color, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in these ways, this embodiment of how we've all internalized hate, it doesn't matter light skin, dark skin,
Mm-hmm.
because there's this level of healing and target and trigger that happen within our own immediate families that
Mm-hmm.
that happens and it creates this toxin as well. So there's like layers and levels. You can't just
Absolutely.
say it's black and white. And
Yes.
in these ways, I let that go. And I say that these
Yes.
conversations are beyond. We have to move into the shades of gray,
Yes.
right? And that's how we get to the light, right?
Yes.
Because some of us is like hanging out somewhere, some of us is hanging out in a place, and we just got to get out of that.
That's
You know what I
that's
mean?
I do. I
So,
do. I do.
so Fitness for
I
All
do.
Bodies, if we want to think more, I like to think of in the ways I was a part of the Women's Theological Center.
Mm,
And they used to have these retreats
mm,
for just everybody,
mm-hmm.
right? But it was framed on the work and the spirit and the energy of women.
Okay.
And so we would all walk in there
Mm-hmm.
and it'd be like, yeah, you know that. You know that's right. We all just learned us something and we just healed and we
Yes.
and we got smacked in the face and it was okay. And it was okay. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
I
It's
do.
like
Okay.
it was like, look, this is the space of if you don't grow, you don't grow if you don't feel discomfort. If you're
Mm,
feeling okay, there's actually something wrong, especially if we're talking about issues of oppression.
mm.
So if you are feeling comfortable and you are feeling okay, there is
Something's
actually
wrong.
a problem.
It's a
Yes.
big problem if you're feeling
Yes.
comfortable. Yes, I agree.
So they would call this, and I've adopted it because I believe in it wholeheartedly. This
Mm,
natural creation
mm,
of the cocoon, right? So what happens in that cocoon, and they explain it perfectly, right? So the cocoon, the outside is their safety zone,
mm.
right? It's where you go, right? To be safe, where transformation can happen. And that
Yes.
transformation is conflict. A
Yes.
lot of conflict, not a
Yes.
little bit.
Yes.
A lot. You're bombarded with a lot of things.
Yes.
You're shaken
Yes.
up. You're
Yes.
reframing, you're
Yes.
changing. And in order to do that, you have
Yes.
to contain it in a safety space. So
Yes.
let's think of fitness for all bodies as that cocoon
Mm.
where people enter to the cocoon and they are aware that conflict is going to happen, but this is the safe space to create those conversations where conflict happens and we grow,
Would you
right?
call it, would you call it, because when I think of, when I hear conflict, right? Like that means war. It's not going to be a good, it's good, right? You know, there's conflict,
Yeah.
and then there's conflict where we're having a discussion, but we're respecting each other and we're respecting each other's boundaries and spaces. So which kind of conflict are
So
we
I'm going
talking
to
about
say
here?
when we think about conflict, we always think toxic. And
Mm,
that is on purpose because
mm,
language is a funny thing,
mm,
right? And when we think about battle
mm,
and we think about war, because we
mm,
are going to be at war.
mm,
We
mm,
have
mm,
been for a very long time.
mm,
I'm not going to
mm,
pretty it up for anybody.
mm, mm.
We're talking about white supremacist culture. We're talking about a history of slavery, and we're talking about colonialization. We're
Yes.
talking about the theft of this land. We're talking about white supremacy from its roots and
Mhm.
how it even takes away from white people.
Mm.
So, yeah, the battle's going to be hard.
It's not always going to be pretty.
It's
In
not
fact,
going to be pretty.
it's probably going to be extremely uncomfortable
But what I'm
and bloody.
extreme. But what I'm saying is that we are in a space where we make an agreement with each other
Mm.
to understand that we are going to meet each other where we're at, and we're not going to baby each other. It doesn't mean
Okay.
that we're going to really diminish
Mm-hmm.
what we've been holding on to,
Right.
right? But we're going to come into this space together and acknowledge that we're going to witness both healing and we're going to learn from each other.
I
And in
love
that
that.
root of learning, that learning from a context of not framed on experience of today,
Mm.
but rooted in a history that helps you to understand how socially this was constructed and why and what it was for.
Mm.
And we can take away from that, right?
Mm.
Let go of guilt. We
Yes.
beyond that right now. We're beyond that.
Yes.
I don't want to, you know what? We're done with the crying, right? Because we're not being performative. Because
Mm-hmm.
we know what real tears are. Real tears come after years of action and doing. And we all know what that feels like,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because it's beyond performative. I know
Mm-hmm.
what fake tears are. We all do. I
Absolutely.
remember being a child being like, I know how I'm going to manipulate my mom. I'm going to do those fake tears because I remember how she acted the last time I cried. She was like, oh, baby. And I was like,
That works.
oh, yeah. It works as adults too. Adults do that. Like, oh,
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry that white people are racist. Oh, you are.
Really?
You feel so sorry about that. What have you done for me lately? Do
That's
do 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 do. Ooh, yeah. And I don't mean holding up a banner, wearing
Mm,
a t-shirt,
mm,
buying some merch. It's
mm,
beyond capitalism because capitalism is part of the problem. I am
mm,
asking you to be part of the solution. And that reciprocity is not me asking you
mm,
for, but you knowing what you owe me.
mm, mm. Let's talk a little bit more about that. So we've said, you know, these words, white supremacy, decolonization, decolonize. I myself talk about decolonizing fitness. So what what does that what does that mean within a fitness space?
Now, I think they figured that out too. I think it's like Alcoholics Anonymous, right? You laughing, right? That's they thing. That's they thing, right? If you think about Alcoholics Anonymous, it comes with you got to know the problem,
Yes.
right? That's the
Mm.
first thing they say every
Yes.
meeting.
Yes.
You
Yes.
gotta
Yes.
know the
Yes.
problem in
Yes.
order to change it, right?
Yes. But a lot of people don't have a very good, they
Exactly.
don't have a very good understanding of what do they, well, a couple of things. They don't have a very good understanding, number one, of all the isms, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, you name any of those things. And people don't, let me say, I will say as a category, because on one hand, I hate to do it, but on the other hand, it is what it is. As a category, white people, but all people they have a hard time understanding these isms.
Yeah.
And then when you start talking about really big words like white supremacy, people are like, okay, look, now you're really saying some things to me that you're asking me to work hard here. So yeah. How do we how do we untease these things for people?
Well, part of it is meeting people where they're at,
Mm,
right? Part of it is actually creating a framework of understanding,
mm,
right? So, like, for example, we're in the fitness field, we're not having these conversations. I come from an activist background.
mm,
So what I needed to do is I'm always studying around the school, the prison pipeline, or I'm going through all of these frameworks to help people understand what those larger idealistic words are,
mm,
and pulling it into our storytelling ability and our experiential learning,
mm,
right? And so in that we need a framework. And so I came up with the fitness industrial complex and what
mm,
that looks like and how it is basically the interwovenness of all of those isms. So we talk
mm,
about the umbrella, much like Bell Hooks has done for us,
mm-hmm,
right? Has
mm-hmm,
taken all of these isms and just basically placed it under an umbrella so that we could understand our interlockingness, our interwovenness, our connectivity
mm,
in our otherness, so that we can reframe that, empower ourselves to really truly have those connected conversations. The
mm-hmm,
more we separate ourselves, much like what Audre Lorde says,
mm,
the master's tools,
mm,
and I get the want to take this idea or this identity and celebrate that box.
mm,
I
mm,
get that.
mm, mm,
But
mm.
we don't see what happens when we celebrate one thing and then today I'm black, tomorrow I'm trans,
Mm,
the next
mm,
day I'm broke.
mm.
But you experience that shit every day, all day,
Just like I said,
right? And so
all day, every day.
we have to really understand the interwovenness,
Mm,
right? And I'm not saying stop celebrating the general separation of
absolutely.
ourselves, because
Absolutely.
that's how we bring to light in
Absolutely.
this toxic, right, society that we
Absolutely.
are here,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I'm saying is that we have to go beyond, because it gives a righteousness. It becomes again like
Mm.
we're doing this race or this race or my oppression. My oppression is worse than your oppression.
That's right. The
His
oppression
oppression
Olympics.
is this oppression. And then I
Yes,
have 800 oppressions. And
that's
then
right.
others is oppression. And then we just go on in all of these oppressions. But the real thing is oppression is fucking oppression.
That's
Right?
right. That's
And
right.
and I understand that some ways more than the other,
Mm,
right? And that is why we need to heal together,
that's
right?
right.
Because we need to talk about that weight,
Mm,
right? Because what happens is it's elusive, it's all
mm,
disconnected. And
mm,
then one person doesn't see enough. And that is a tool of white supremacy to keep us chasing these boxes
mm, mm,
until we're able to forgive, because
mm,
part of it is forgiving. And if
mm,
forgiving is not about the trauma, it's actually about letting go.
Mm,
because remembrance is also important, right?
mm,
It
mm,
gives caution to learning and
mm.
not having that happen to us ever again, protection,
Absolutely.
right? But we have to, right? We have to go through that process of forgiving and
Mm,
letting go and moving,
mm.
right? Because we can't in our separate boxes, all alone,
Yes.
in our silos. We know
Yes.
that anger is rooted in our hearts, but sometimes you get that bee with honey. So we have to forgive and see
Yes.
something different on the other side. And
Yes.
so that's what I try to embody, you know. I understand, and I understand people get mad, and I'll say, duh, duh, I understand. And they'll say, well, why? I mean, they said all kinds of N words and da da da. Well,
Mm,
they did say that. And two things in my heart, I'm not going to infuse that and take that in because that's not who I am.
mm.
And then the other thing is that this person really doesn't have any other skill set than what they've internalized or understand this is at that moment.
Mm,
And we don't understand different people's experiences, different
mm.
people's context, that they receive different content about identities, right? That all of a sudden that we're in this knowingness, right? And everybody outside of the church is supposed to be at your level all at that same time. As soon as praise the Lord, you got saved, right?
Mm,
So no, the truth is that we have to continue, even when it's hard,
mm,
right?
mm, mm.
Sometimes I say, which is a very good book and a very
Yes.
good poem, I'm not this bridge called my back.
Mm,
And that is the truth.
yes.
I'm not this bridge called my back because we have a community, right?
Mm,
And with a community, we each build an element of that bridge, right? And it's
yes.
no longer on one person's back to do the work. It
Yes.
becomes us together, right?
Yes.
And so in these ideas, we have to have a number of things happening simultaneously at the same time with a consistency of love and a consistency of looking back, Sankofa. Consistency. It
Mm,
has to be, because without that looking back, we don't see that it's a social construct and we don't see that we actually can change it.
yes.
We don't see how things have actually evolved with time. So
Yes.
we have the ability to reframe this beyond our fear of unknowing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're afraid, jump in the cocoon, hang out with us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you I guess my question is how or when did you get involved in the, the fitness arena as a whole and why?
Well, I've always been a mover and a shaker. I
Mm,
always like picking up weights, and then I guess the context of time
mm,
um was thrown off because I wanted to do bodybuilding, but I didn't
mm.
want to do physique, and I definitely wasn't about wearing a bra and some bikini shit. So
Yes.
so when I started out, I it was more about just picking things up and putting it down, not really having any knowledge or just really enjoying being able to feel strong,
Mm,
right? And to do things that normally in the body that I had, it wasn't socially, okay. So I felt more connected to the socialized version,
mm-hmm.
and I'm going to reframe that more as an adult, but how I viewed my masculinity
Mm,
and how I wanted to celebrate that side of who I was
mm,
came within that fitness space. And
mm,
so that in sport. So
mm,
that, and I really love playing basketball.
mm,
And unfortunately, I love playing football, but at that time, again, coaches would let me practice, but
mm,
my
mm,
mom basically was like, nah, she really believed that women's bodies
mm,
was weaker than men's
mm,
bodies.
mm, mm.
She actually should have came to practice because they used to call me Brick Wall. Like legit, like like it was like good business. Cause you can get grounded. You get
Yes,
really grounded in
yes,
this body.
yes,
You know what I'm
yes,
saying? And you
yes,
find a
yes,
way to stop traffic if you need
yes,
to. You know what I'm
yes,
saying?
yes, yes,
So I
yes.
practice, so generally, but I wasn't able to play,
Mm,
because of that limitation.
mm,
And I felt like in my high school, it started this idea, that an energy
mm,
that women can play on men's teams. And
mm.
I remember being in college and coming back home, and there was a girl on and playing
Yes,
on the football team. And I
yes,
was like, yo,
yes.
we laid a foundation, we inspire, because these things are myths,
Mm.
right? And the more we're able to, like, this, whatever, dissemble the myth or whatever the word
Yes,
is
yes,
for it,
yes,
right?
yes, yes,
The
mm,
more, and there's a fear, right? There's a
yes,
fear in masculinity. There's
yes.
always this fear with masculinity that femininity is more powerful than.
Mm.
I kind of believe that's true. I believe the hype, you know what I'm saying? But I ain't
Okay,
afraid
okay,
of it. I ain't afraid
okay.
of it. You know what I'm saying? Women
Okay,
give birth. You know what
okay,
I'm saying? I
okay.
believe that there is a power of connection
Yes,
through nature and time
yes, yes,
that happens with
yes,
women. So
yes.
women are a powerful force.
Agreed,
But
agreed.
I'm not going to say that, and this is elusive because of fear and patriarchy
Mm.
and the supremacy around male bodies that has endowed us throughout time since before Christ. And
Yes.
even as we can imagine, I will always say people would get mad at me. Again, I would go to church and I would ask question, well, why is Jesus white? Number one, hanging out with a whole bunch of white people that's probably like the only white people,
And
and yeah, in
and
Africa.
he li
That's like,
and
it's like,
that's and
and
he
his
lives
hair,
in the Middle East. I'm sorry. Wait, what? I don't
yes.
get it. Wait,
And
what?
and
I
what he's
what?
supposed to look like that, blue eyes and stuff. Like,
How
what's
did that
going
happen?
on? Like, so I will always embody these questions, right? And I will always ask because our value system, and this is the thing about people of color, us as Black people, we are very
Mm,
spiritual.
mm.
And that first way that they took us,
Took
Christianity
all the
took our spirit.
it took
They
our
took it.
spirit, but
Yes.
it also took the religions that were
Yes.
native to our people, that many people do not practice, including myself. I do not practice. I'm no longer a Christian at this point in time, but I watched a TV special. It was about like love. It's like these. I love love shows. It's, so
Yes.
it's following these different couples all across the world. And so they went to Brazil, and there's these two women, and they're practicing I cannot remember the name of the god, but
Oshun,
Oshun, that's
Yoruba,
it. Yes, they're
Yoruba.
practicing. Yes, and my heritage is Yoruba heritage. So they're practicing, Oshun religion, and I'm just like, oh my God, like I feel my heart is just like, this is so powerful, so powerful. And the connect, and I feel that that connection to our heritage and that connection to our ancestors
Yes.
was severed. And
Yes.
that to me, that part of the decolonizing fitness part is bringing some of that back into the fitness spaces, because I will share for you like this. It's like just a short little anecdote or whatever. Like, I remember many years ago, right before my husband and I got married, and we've been together for 25 years now. So right before, not before we got together, but before we were going to get married, we started lifting weights, and I'd be in the gym for like 2 hours. I hated it. Every minute of it, I hated it, because I did not want to be in the gym. It was just not my thing. That's why I'm a runner now. And I don't want, because I don't want to be in the gym. I don't want that. So
Yeah.
we're lifting weights, and you said something earlier that I also really connected, which was that you were you were embracing this feeling strong. And that part of it I really loved. Like, I loved that I was able to pick up something and I was strong. And I remember going home, to my mom, and I was, of course, starting to get like bulk up. But like myself, like, I don't have a tall, slender, body. So I'm not going to get cuts. I'm not getting cuts. I'm just getting big and bulky. So it's starting to get big and bulky. And my mom was just like, ew, that's gross. Like, why would you want that? And that to me is like, wait, what? And I thought about this today, because actually before coming on the show, I was lifting some weights, and I was thinking about that experience of my mom sort of like looking at me and feeling like, well, that's just gross. But look, our ancestors in the various countries around Africa, they were strong in those kingdoms, and they did what they needed to do because they had to. So
That's right.
why shouldn't I be strong? Why shouldn't I
Yes.
get bulky?
Yes.
Why not?
I don't know why not.
Why
I,
not?
I told you I don't disagree with that statement at all. I told you. I'm all about the agreeing with you.
So I just, so I just feel that bringing some of that back into fitness spaces, the connection to, and it doesn't have to just be Black people. It can be any person, anybody feeling the connection to their culture and their heritage, and this idea that whiteness is a culture and a heritage
Yes.
is false. Your whiteness is not a culture. It's
No, it's
just the
not.
color of your skin.
Yes.
There are many cultures of white people all across the world, people who have white skin all across the world.
It's like whiteness is the absence of.
Indeed.
So, and I feel sad because that's how that culture it's the absence of. It's like
Mm,
void. So it
mm,
tries
mm,
to fill itself
mm,
with everything
mm.
and then capitalize off of
And
it.
also take away, because if we can't have a powerful connection to our culture, then neither can you.
That's true. That's those boxes we was talking about. That's those boxes.
That's right. That's right. Indeed.
Everything.
Indeed. So I have another question for you. You've mentioned a couple of things, and this is just like a point of interest to me. So I have a bachelor's degree in Catholic theology.
Oh, that's dope.
But you've mentioned going to the Women's Theological Center, and you've mentioned some theological connections. So I was just wondering, what is your connection to theology and such?
Well, that is the connection. Um, no, that and my study would be like as a young child being
Mm,
forced to go to like
mm,
school, right, and learn the Bible,
mm,
right, and from that framework, like I consider all that. Well, I didn't go to college for it, but I consider all of that study.
Mm,
right? And
mm,
then the Women's Theological Center, they're like weird. It was Mec and Donna. So
mm,
Mec and Donna, two amazing uh, Donna Bivens.
mm,
She is amazing. She's just like she works for a different organization now.
mm,
Um, but when Mec and Donna were together, they would do these retreats that were so spiritual. And we are talking about it was beyond religion,
mm,
right? Different people who studied different religions, because that's
mm,
the study of
mhm,
whatever belief, right? And so they would come and we will all be presented. We will all be in the cocoon
mm,
and we come out butterflies. It would truly be a very transformative each time they created this space. And they had this thing called Ancestor Cards that I would use.
mm,
I can't use anymore, but I do still have them
mm,
as an opening activity for everything that I did with young people, every event that I did. And basically these ancestor cards are rooted in and language again, right?
mm,
Words,
mm,
right?
mm,
Connectivity, right? We feel so disconnected because of the language we use is not framed and culturally relevant to us.
mm,
And these ancestor cards are cards with words on it,
mhm,
right? That connect to who we are. And
mm,
I've used it with Black people, I've used it with diverse people. It just doesn't matter. It's so spirited and our ancestors and the roots based on who we are, which is love, that
mm,
each person connects as soon as they
mm,
do it.
mm,
So we will pull from the ancestor cards,
mm,
right? And that generally would be the way we would bring ourselves into that space
mm,
and
mm,
honor our ancestors, honor our connectivity. So in those ways, I try to facilitate much like the space that was created when I felt comfortable
mhm,
being challenged with white people,
mm,
talking about racism,
mm,
talking about gender,
mm,
talking about class, but in real ways,
mm.
not above. We would go below surface where we're all crying, not just one person.
That's
We're
right.
all crying because we're all triggered by experiences that both mirror, but also connect in ways, right? Because we're all targets. And we
Yes,
find out in this space through all of this, oh, we unweaving, right? And
yes,
freeing off the weight and letting it go, right?
yes,
It's like,
yes,
and then we're like, damn, yo, we actually need more of this. And
yes.
it's like spaces like that don't exist now. We hang out
Mm,
in our silos because that's where it's comfortable. I
mhm,
find that my purpose in life, and I've always been this person,
mm.
I would bring what you would call, and I like this movie too, The
Yes.
Unusual Suspects
Okay,
to
I
the
remember that
table.
movie, yes.
Yes, I bring the unusual suspects to the table, and
Yes.
we all sit there. It'd be just as deep as me, a KKK person, a terrorist from blah, blah, blah. We'll all sit there, and for some odd reason, because of the energy in that space, we be able to move beyond the lens that we've all internalized, the
Yes.
messages that we've all believed were true,
Mhm.
shake it up, break it up, see the soil underneath,
Yes.
dig deep, pull out the weeds,
Yes.
and all of a sudden, what comes up?
Yes.
Something healthy. So I
Yes.
believe that that is my purpose. And
Yes.
I'm not going to allow um, whiteness, white supremacy, those who engage in that with intention, or
Mm,
those who engage in it without,
mm.
to take away from my purpose. Because
Never.
I believe in some way we have to really chip at and eradicate truly and understand that we have movements and they've been powerful. Now, can we imagine if we just move together, what that would look like?
Man.
Let's give it a try.
So powerful, so powerful, so powerful. Man, I feel like I want to ask you more questions, but that's a good place. It's a good place stopper. I love it.
I love it.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So okay. I got two more questions. That's it. Okay. All right. So the first question is, Coach Justice, tell me a little bit more about the queer pop-up gym, and tell me a little bit about that. How does it roll?
So queer pop up, it's like I used to work at this I guess a big box gym,
Mm,
and I'm very, again, very open about who I am. I celebrate who I am.
mm,
And there's a time that I would blend and I would have to say, yo, I'm trans, like on a regular basis.
mm,
Because
mm,
people would say like weird things to me, and I'd be like, dude, I'm trans. Like I felt like every time, and people, because you get in this realm of like, who cares, right? But in certain situations like bodybuilding, I would generally get asked all the time, yo, you should do this or you should do that. And I'm like, I haven't had surgery. What surgery you gotta have? Top surgery. What's that mean? Yo, how many times I gotta tell you I'm trans? Oh, all right. 2 weeks later, same legit conversation all over again.
mm, mm,
Da, da,
mm,
da. So it's like I would have queer people walk up to me and feel uncomfortable at the gym
mm,
because they felt like even though the gym was located in a very queer neighborhood,
mm,
that it didn't accommodate the needs of specific communities, which
mm,
is
mm,
trans community, and
mm,
some ways, some queer, some lesbians, and some gay people didn't
mm,
feel comfortable
mm,
in the
mm,
space. And so I held that community and I held that space up to a standard of, embodying belonging and embodying us in like acceptance. And everywhere that I would go, no matter the members, I would be my whole self and
mhm,
celebrate. And
mhm,
so in that, it's hard because you can't do it. People are members when you don't work, right?
mhm,
But they still expect that same culture
mhm.
when you're not there. And so, therefore, some ideas around why Fitness for All Bodies is happening,
Mhm.
right? So
Absolutely.
that not only do you create space, but you
Mhm.
give others whose intention is to try to create this space, but don't know how because of
Mhm.
white supremacy and
Mhm.
how we've learned to relate to each other,
Mhm.
right? So the omission of information, da 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 da, right? So I'm like, oh, I began to create a space solely for us to do two things,
Mhm.
right? Because they're pop-ups.
Mhm.
They're not generally going to happen for
Mhm.
your comfort all the
Mhm.
time, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
We have to polish our armor and claim the spaces that we
Mhm.
belong to that are a part of our community. These
Mm.
gyms are a part of our community. We have to take those spaces back. And part of that is polishing our armor and being in our silos and hugging it up and loving it up and getting all powerful and then walking in and celebrating yourself in that space. So I
Mm.
have these spaces where it's a pop-up for community and healing, but
Mhm.
it's a way to help people to see that we belong any space within our communities. That is our space.
Yes.
Anywhere that we are putting our collective funds to sustain and help them pay their bills,
Mhm.
their salaries, their electric, their taxes. That's where all this money's going into, right? It's going into that community embodiment of keeping that institution in that space and functioning. So if we're going to continue to bring our part, our piece of that to it, we have to have them like value, just like they value our money, create space and value our bodies. And so
Yes.
therefore that helps me when I'm saying, hey, there's a whole community out there, folks, because we can't keep running to these spaces that just do it for us. We have to illuminate that we exist in the very communities that these institutions are in. Stop running outside, because we often run outside to feel safe, right? I'll have people coming from like across Massachusetts because there's no gym that they feel comfortable in. Like a whole way across, we was like 4 hours long. I
Wow.
had people be like, yo, I just popped in from Springfield. This is,
Wow.
yeah, because we don't understand the need, right? Because we're all in our everyday privilege, in our everyday ideology, which is white supremacist, and we think that's a norm. That's not a norm. You're in a community of folks that you don't need to learn how to be inclusive around. You should just be there because we're in your community. I'm like, come on, yo. I was like,
I,
uh,
I understand.
as I'm
I'm
just
looking
saying,
at you.
yeah, so the queer gym pop up is a way for us to celebrate, but also heal and build our armor, right?
Mm,
It is the framework, it is the heart, it is some of the reason why I do fitness for all bodies, right?
mm,
Everything is connected, and fitness for all bodies is basically the movement, right? To really eradicate, not talk about, not have some classes, but what I'm trying to embody is this umbrella, because we're not the only resource. That's
mm,
also white supremacist culture, because it'll have all these resources mad at each other. All of a sudden, Fitness for All Bodies came out and it's taking money, and people from, there's so many people in the world. Are you
mm,
really kidding me right now? Number one. And number two,
mm,
why are we doing the same thing that white supremacist culture wants us to do to each
mm, mm,
other?
mm,
Let's not lie. Do you want to do this for real? That's what I ask everyone. In order to do this for real, we can't compete about our oppression.
that's
We
right.
can't compete, or we can't capitalize
Mm,
on the backs and the experiences of our people who are being oppressed and then get mad about it. This is a movement to eradicate
mm,
white supremacist, capitalistic, cis heteropatriarchal society. We have to eradicate it
mm,
and stop doing and using the master's tools, because it
mm,
will never, ever, we will continue to embody these toxic ideas under an illusion that we are activists doing this work,
mm, mm,
and change won't come.
mm,
And we will sit and wonder why.
mm,
I actually was so disappointed
mm,
when all of a sudden, when I'm doing this work, that it
mm,
was illuminated to me that historically we are erasing activists
mm,
who are from otherness, who are from disabled community, who are
mhm,
from the queer community. We are literally erasing them
mm. Tell me
from
more
our
about that.
information. So I just feel like I've been doing a lot of work around helping people to celebrate our movement and our revolutions, right? And I'm thinking about, you know, the Black Panther Party,
Mm,
right? And in the ways that it was for, and I'll just use that as an example,
mm,
right? The empowerment of our community and Black people. And it did. And I'm never, ever, because I frame a lot of what I do um, off of the learning that has happened for me from that movement,
oh,
right?
absolutely.
And
Yes.
so it's a powerful movement, but
Mm,
also was very, very sexist, was very,
mm,
very homophobic, was very,
mm,
very, very patriarchal, was
mm,
very, very, had these layeredness within it that was still embodiment of white supremacist
mm,
culture
mhm,
in the guise of revolutionary activism.
mm,
So what I'm trying to say is, right, we have to meet people where they're at. But if we don't understand in the ways that we are sustaining
mm,
white supremacy,
mm,
through white supremacist, hegenomic, toxic masculine
Yes.
ideologies,
Yes.
right? That
Yes.
are
That's
really,
there it
really
is.
racist,
Yes.
right? We're all holding on to that. We're
Yes.
all holding it. All of us.
Absolutely.
Activists, all the same.
Mm,
And what makes me different is I check myself.
mm, mm,
I illuminate that.
mhm,
I don't
mhm.
need friends. I need this shit to ends.
That's
That's what I need. That's what I need. You know what I'm saying? It's been
and it
hundreds
makes me just
and
power
hundreds
to
of
people, man.
years.
That's all
Yes.
I'm saying. Power to
It's
the
like
people all the
we've been
time.
running. I feel like we're running this rat race and we really see it.
Mm,
But
mm,
we're not willing, even in our own oppression, to feel uncomfortable because
mm,
we'll say we've been oppressed.
mm, mm, mm.
But we're not going to challenge our sexism, our misogyny as men, our homophobia, our transphobia as cis individuals, right? We're always running around talking about white people and what they doing, but we're not going to talk about the ways that we engage in harmful relationships with each other,
Mhm,
right? And
mhm,
how important that is to like
mm,
really highlight and illuminate that we exist and we're
mm,
here and we've been doing this work for a long time,
mm.
right? We're
Absolutely.
not the context of white supremacy is to erase us.
Mhm. Actively. And
Yes.
actively, proactively, and also inactively as well,
Yes.
on many
Many
levels,
ways. Yeah.
of many ways. Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. My last question for you, Coach, is if you had one piece of advice that you could offer, or if there's a piece of advice that you've ever been given, what would it be?
I'd say that, you know, in a world where we're all fighting to find voice in who we are, that we have to find our liberation through the voices and experiences of others. And so that's what I would leave us with.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This conversation has been the highlight of my week, the highlight of my day. Thank you so much for joining me here. I really appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you so much. I'm going